Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro! Gol!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Ollie Fisher, back after a week's absence, joined once again by Anthony Talgrud.
What's up, guys? I'm here. I could use some sleep, but I'm here. And we got Lorenzo 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, double whammy, guys. Lucky you. Back again, also coffeeed up, ready. It's a be a good week.
It's not going to be a good week, to be honest.
It's going to be a good week. I'm convinced it's going to be a good week.
Yeah, I was going to say, in response to AJ's comment there, I think we could all use a bit of rest at the moment. Even though we had 6 weeks off watching Milan, we're back in a position where all of a sudden it seems like the team can't give us any joy. We've got a couple of games to recap. I was hoping to hop on and be able to talk about my fantastic experience watching us beat Roma 2-0 or even 2-1. Because I was at the game at San Siro, not last weekend, the one before. We threw that away. It was 2-2. It pissed it down with rain. We got wet through on the way home after throwing away 2 valuable points. And I think that's kind of set the tone for 2023 so far. I mean, we're on 1 win out of 4. It is not good. I mean, we read a little bit too much, some of us, into those winter friendlies and were lambasted for doing so on social media, but maybe it wasn't too much. Maybe the warning signs have been there, from those winter friendlies. But yeah, we've got a couple of games to recap and some ranting to do, no doubt. We've got the Super Cup to preview, which is coming up on Wednesday night in Saudi Arabia. And also we got a lot of questions. So thank you to everyone who submitted them, because I think everyone's kind of fired up at the moment and everyone wants their say on how the team's getting on. And that's good because anger is better than apathy at the end of the day, right? Let's dive in. Wednesday night it was, wasn't it? Torino in the Coppa Italia. Stick the thing on. Have we got the thing?
Oh, yeah, we do. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I told you guys I need a nap, and I apologize to everyone in the comments because I saw how you guys attacked Madison the other week. I just yawned, so that's on me.
A couple of people defended him, though, which was nice. It was like, chill out. Just having a...
He was catching heat.
He's got a very young child, as I'm sure the regular listeners are aware. But people decided to stick the boot in anyway, Paul Maddie. And he hasn't made it this week, so maybe we should put Lorenzo's head on the logo from now on. I don't know. We can get it photoshopped or something. But yeah, Torino in midweek. Now, there are several things that contribute to this. And they're all fairly obvious, but I think this is the most frustrating game of the Pioli era for me. Not necessarily the most infuriating, not necessarily the worst we played, because we've been hammered 5-0 by Atalanta and we've been beaten by Torino already in the league this season, and that was a poor performance. But this was really, really frustrating. It was 120 minutes where we couldn't score. It was 50 minutes played when you count normal time plus whole of extra time. 50 minutes with a man advantage and we couldn't score. We hit the post in the first half. We did have a couple of shots that were saved. I mean, that Milinkovic-Savic seems to turn into prime Manuel Neuer whenever he plays us. But we just couldn't do it. People say it wasn't our night. If you give us those same opportunities again, we're probably looking at going through to the next round. But there were a lot of worrying signs from this. I mean, what's the raw reaction? Like, what are we meant to do with a game like that?
I was just annoyed we even were in extra time. Like, I know a trophy is a trophy and you should go for everything that you're in. And we're going to talk about that, the Super Cup soon. But I don't care about the Copa Italia. And I wanted us to go out, but I didn't want us to play the extra 30 minutes. I think that's where my frustration is, especially when we got the 10 men down. Like, when they went down to 10, it was like, okay, we might as well just score and get this over with. And then we couldn't even do it. That's frustrating. But the worst part about it is seeing the players' reactions, because it doesn't matter if I care about the cup. But it was very obvious that they did. You saw Tomori losing his mind yet again, by the way. He's quite a few weeks in a row doing this.
Yeah.
But true. Losing his mind on the pitch, like he was screaming at Leao, who just looked like shell-shocked. Like he just couldn't grasp it. It's the same with the Leche game for both of them, actually, but we'll get to that. Yeah, it just it meant a lot to them, and they put on that performance, and that's what worries me. It wasn't a fluke loss. We got beat. So I don't know.
Completely agree. I mean, we saw the social media posts. They were Milan as a club were really like, yeah, we're doing this, we're on it. There was so much buzz around us, going through, trying to win it this year, actually try and win it. And like you said, the players wanted to win it. And the fact that they wanted to win it and played like that makes it so much worse because it looked like they didn't even have the tools in their arsenal to beat a 10-man Torino. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It was almost, I feel shell-shocked even thinking back at it. So I can imagine how the likes of Tomori might feel who, okay, we'll probably get touch on this. His attitude is good and bad, but he's clearly exasperated, like incredibly exasperated, as us fans are at the moment, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I got texts from friends who don't normally watch or keep track of our games saying, first of all, that we let down their bets, but like, how have you lost to 10 men when you had 20 minutes plus extra time to score against them? It was utterly bizarre. We've had games like that during the banter era, I think it would be fair to say, but they haven't really happened that often. I guess since our sort of resurgence, if you can call it that. But yeah, it was very, very strange. I think the starting lineup kind of set the tone because that was strange. I won't say it was bad because we actually played our best football 11v11 for sort of the first half, the first 55, 60 minutes of the game. I thought we were on top. We created the chances. CDK was getting in good areas. He had that header that hit the post. He had that shot from just outside the edge of the box that was well saved. Maybe could have placed it a bit better. The players looked sort of bright, and they were trying to do something despite the fact that we'd made big rotations as we kind of have to do this month. And then when we were pushing for the winner with the man advantage, and we brought on the big guns like Leao, Teo, Benacer came on a little bit after that. Giroud, we looked worse, and that was like, to me, I think purely kind of threw them on without a plan. He probably just said, "We're a man up. Let's find this goal now, and job done through to the next round." We actually looked less cohesive when we had our better players out there on the pitch, and that was what was really worrying for me, more so than anything. I will just put out there as well that I think Torino deserve an awful lot of praise. Like they stayed so disciplined and organised, even more so with 10 men as they kind of had to. That almost maybe helped them because then they were committing to not conceding and whatever happens, happens.
Bear in mind, as well for us as well, in front of our fans. And they did really well.
65,000.
Yeah.
It was a really, really forgettable night, or maybe unforgettable for the completely wrong reasons. But it was interesting, as AJ kind of alluded to, when we had that man advantage and we had 20 minutes to go at them, I really thought that we would push for it. And then if you get hit on the break, it's like, that's shit. Like, we shouldn't be going out like this. However, we've saved extra time. What was mental to me is that we got caught on the break in sort of the last, the second half of extra time. That's crazy. I mean, the lottery of penalties is still available. You don't need to necessarily overcommit. Or maybe we didn't want the lottery of penalties. I don't know. Maybe we wanted to win it ourselves. But you're making decisions there in the final 10 minutes of extra time where, like, you've allowed a 2-on-1 break against a team with 10 men. How has that happened?
I've noticed a lot of the counter goals that we concede are from a 50-50 challenge that doesn't get called our way. And that's not an excuse, but the thing I noticed about that is the player reactions is not to try and win the ball back and just wait for that whistle to come. It's to throw your hands up and complain and get in the ref's face. And he's not calling it. And while everyone's not running, not watching the player with the ball, they're still playing. And they get that counter. And then they go and
it's the old adage, and it play to the whistle, like
exactly, and we never do. I don't know. It's weird because a lot of rival fans will disagree with this, but we're not a team that really complains a whole lot. Like we'll throw our hands up and then get on with it. We don't really get in the ref's face, but every time we do, we concede a goal. It's like, so I don't know. We just need to stop doing that and just play until it's the end.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting question actually to ask you both. Maybe we'll touch on it in a bit more detail later. But do you think if Zlatan was in the squad, not playing but training in the group with his mentality, let's be honest, he is our second coach. Do you think that result would have been the same? Because I think that was a mental loss.
I agree. I think we want to drop the points to Roma. We want to drop points to Lecce. We want to drop or lost to Torino.
Can't rely on that though. It's crazy. These are Scudetto winning team now, and I love you, but it's too reliant.
I kind of thought we were past that though. I honestly thought the Ibra dependency thing was like maybe overplayed at the time because it was about the strength of the group and everything. But then mentally, I thought we'd like gone past a hurdle by winning the 6 games in a row to win the Scudetto and finally getting that trophy under our belts. And we'd moved away from the dependency on the field and then also off the field as well. But it doesn't appear to be the case. Like we seem really brittle at the moment, really fragile.
He was on the bench for each of those 6 games. He just obviously didn't feature a whole lot because he was injured that whole time. But I think he knew he had to be there for that. And obviously you can't do that for 2 years in a row. Like you have to get that surgery and heal up. And so I don't blame him for being gone, but
it's like,
I mean, it would be nice if he'd hang out a little bit.
Yeah. And he was been in Miami and stuff. And I know that was supposedly
he's
built into the
H&M. You've seen the H&M adverts.
Yeah, H&M, yeah.
He's just been really detached from the team. And I do think that has an effect when like your biggest motivator it's not Pioli. It never was. I mean, let's be real. Before Zlatan arrived, with Pioli, this team wasn't doing any better than it was with Giampaolo or Montella or Gattuso or anyone else. It was still a pretty poor team. And then the Ibra changed it. So
I mean, it was the 5-0 collapse against Atalanta that kind of forced us to take strong action. But then the flip side of me says, does Ibra shouting stuff from the dugout stop Kalulu making those mistakes? I don't think it does. I think you make mistakes and it costs you points. And it's defensive inattention because if you're having to score 3 goals a game to win, which we needed to against Roma, which we needed to against Lecce in hindsight, because they obviously scored twice, that's not going to win you many games. That's not going to win you titles, definitely. Like the strong point of the second half of last season for us was our defensive record. We knew if we scored a goal, we had a good chance of winning that game because we were keeping clean sheets at the other end. 9 out of 11 to end the season. We've got the first choice back 4 back together now. They look like they've never fucking played together. Honestly, it's baffling. It is absolutely baffling. And I do think part of it's the midfield. Like we don't have the 3 strong players to rotate anymore. So like when we're missing Tonali because he's picked up too many yellow cards, we see the impact of that because Pobega and Franks are not good enough at the moment. That's a fact. So we don't have the same shielding. We don't have obviously the same leader behind that Maignan was. But yeah, it's the defensive record. Like we were 2-0 up against Roma, 5 minutes to play, 2 set-piece goals. We were 2-0 down against Lecce within 23 minutes because we let in 2 shit goals. And yeah, you can't score 3 and bail yourself out every time. Like it's not going to happen. And then the Torino Cup game, I mean, yeah, I think we should just move on from this. Do tops and flops, maybe. One thing I will say is that the 2 guys who came off the bench and combined for Torino's winner were apparently on the verge of being loaned out to a Serie C team, both of them.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I think it was Boyaye and
Adopo was his
Adopo. Yeah, he scored the winner.
Which is hilarious because obviously Adopo, see you later.
And they cancelled it. And all of a sudden Juric was like, no, they've got a role to play in this squad. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah. But fair play to him, man. Torino are a bit of a bogey team for us. I mean, we drew 0-0 there in the second half of last season. They beat us 2-1 this season. They've beaten us in the cup now. I think Juric just got better of Pioli, to be honest.
We beat him 7-0 before all that, though.
Yeah. That was crazy. Who was coach then? Massari?
Yeah, I guess it wasn't Juric. Juric definitely made them a lot better team, but
he's a good coach. He's a very good coach. I like his system. I would
take him over Pioli.
We'll come on to that. We've got a couple of questions about the coaching situation. Tops and flops then. Tough to pick a top. I think I think it's kind of a cop-out because I just had to remind myself by looking at our ratings. But I do remember Tonali sort of being the brightest of a bad bunch, and he clearly our man of the match in ratings. And I see no reason to disagree with that. It's a tough one, though, to pick a top for that.
God, I'm just looking at this formation, this 3-5-1-1. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, that was another thing, wasn't it? Like,
that's been my issue with them lately, but we'll get to that, I guess. I don't really have a top, man. I don't feel comfortable picking one.
No, that's fair. Yeah. And the flop, for me, it's between... So we played both Pobega and Bronx in a midfield three, obviously flanking Tonali. So they were kind of given a bit of freedom, a bit of box-to-box kind of responsibilities in a midfield three. They both looked equally shite to me. Like, Bronx is... I see a bit more in him than Pobega. I think he's like 4 years younger, and he looks like he actually wants to get involved rather than hiding away from the game. But he is so clumsy, like so clumsy. I mean, we saw it with the foul giveaway for the Roma equaliser, but just like the way he runs is really strange to watch. But then somehow Pobega looks even more clumsy and even more cumbersome, and like those two are not the answer for a team that is aiming to win the ball back quickly and play forward with precision and quality. Like, those two are not good ball-playing midfielders. They're not technically good. They might be good for certain role situations, like you bring, funnily enough, Frank's messed it up in this situation, but you can bring them on to add a body to midfield to kind of close a game out. But they're not starting level midfielders for us. They're just not.
No way.
Yeah, the way Pobega plays reminds me of like the best kid at recess. Like there's no system. He's just sprinting everywhere, and it's like he just his position is center mid, not attacking mid, not defensive mid, just center mid. Just
he's playing striker. Oh my!
He's in front of Giroud every single time I see him. During the Leche game, I watch it, we're lined up. First touch of the game, kickoff. Who's running all the way into the other box? Pobega, he's up there. He's just immediately, and then Benacer's got to do everything by himself, getting triple covered because there's no other teammates around him. It's like, and yes, he might have had like the hockey assist on both goals, but I mean that's what's going to happen if you're just camping in the other box. Like we're not building up to anything. We're not having any defensive acumen. Like we're just I don't know. It's just complete disregard for the system. He's just running around doing what he wants to do. I don't like him.
Yeah, busy idiot is what some people would call it. I know that's harsh. I'm not actually calling him an idiot because I think he's got a degree in economics or something.
Don't care.
Pretty smart.
Doesn't have one in football.
Maybe that's what he should do. I don't know. He should become an agent.
Yeah, his normal brain is great. His football brain is not so good.
Yeah, footballing IQ is actually a thing.
It is, absolutely.
You see who has the brain and who doesn't. It's a big problem. I mean, there was a Corriere della Sera report today. And I don't take pride in covering these things for the website, but the report basically absolutely launched into our summer window and said, if you compare it player by player, who we lost, who we replaced them with, for a champion team, the Mercato has made our squad so much weaker. Like, we're a reliable centre-back down because Romagnoli left. Now, Romagnoli had a lot of haters, but I think when he was rotated in, we don't feel the same doubts as when we threw Gabia in there, for example, or like Kalulu's not been performing up to scratch this season.
Yeah,
so it would be good to have that player,
that
player in his prime. Like I've talked about this quite a bit this season. My one concern is that we do not have many. We're either very old or we're very young. We don't have many players that are in their late 20s who've been there, done it, seen it. We
that was
bet on the talent, or we go for the injured veterans.
Over the summer, when we had the Botman saga, I was saying like that's who I wanted more than anyone else was Botman. Well, we didn't get Botman. I was like, well, then we better not let Romagnoli go because we need that center back. Then we let him go and we replace him with 7 million Chow. Like yeah, Chow's done great, but that's a risk. You're missing out on your number one target. You're letting your experienced player leave for free, and you're replacing both those with one guy who has extremely limited experience playing altogether.
You also create a problem with the squad list because you're letting an Italian homegrown player leave, and then you have to sign somebody to fill that extra squad slot who probably or that means keeping Pobega instead of selling him when maybe he had a market, or it impacts other decisions. But yeah, I found that interesting, and Kessie's the big one for me. I know I've said it before, but like people saying about we need a new right winger, we need a new number 10, even though we've got 3, we need a new number 9, all this. I still think a central midfielder is our biggest need because Benacer and Tonali are not going to be able to play every game together, not at that intensity.
The drop-off we have in our double pivot is it's insane. It's actually insane. We go from arguably one of the best midfielders, probably in the league, and you could even put a case for on their day in Europe. They're brilliant. Bronx and Pobega are not just bad; they are just so far off that. So far.
Yeah. And
mean,
that was a big
Bronx is
part
like
of our
19.
success was having 3 top caliber midfielders that could rotate, so they always were all fit. Like you rarely saw the same 2 midfielders starting back-to-back games last season, and now it has to be until one is injured or suspended, and then it's awful.
And then it does annoy me. Like I'm not going to go back into talking about what happened with the Kessie saga or whatever like that, but it is frustrating. I'm sure you guys feel the same to read that. Okay, he wouldn't have known that, and there are reasons why he left. We get it, fine, but he's not appreciated or utilized or play that many minutes at Barcelona, and he's just there. And it's like
he left in it like a reliable journalist. I can't remember who it was, and I really should. Said that everything that was coming from his entourage was that, and this was maybe a month and a half ago, saying that he wants to come back here, like he wants to come back to a place where he feels appreciated. Our management, for what happened, considered the chapter closed. Now there's talk of him going to Inter in a swap deal with Brozovic. Whether that happens or not, don't know. But I suppose you can take a gamble as a player, just as the management took a gamble by not paying that player what he wanted. And it couldn't maybe not pay off. The grass isn't always green, and maybe Leao and Benacer might be looking at that and thinking, that's a lesson. You're not always going to be as appreciated as this. But just think about if we still had him, we'd be so much better. It's so scary to me that there's been such a drop off in a massive key area of the field, because the double pivot is our life.
He knew the system. He knew Pioli so well. It's very frustrating to read the Barcelona stuff, and I'm not saying we should open our arms to have him back. It's just frustrating. That's all, to read that.
I would.
Yeah.
I think we could all just be the bigger person, I guess, everyone in the sense, and just accept that this was a mistake. We should get you back. It's better for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
But then would he be alone? And what do we improve Kessie again for Barcelona to just take him back? Or there's got to be some carrot dangled for us to not look like idiots. And I don't know if Barcelona
in good form.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Should we move on to Leche then? I guess we
can't wait to say all the same things.
Hey, look! I mean, at least we drew. At least this was a crazy one. I mean, it came after a crazy game on Friday night, obviously between Napoli and Juve, who were at that point the top two in the league. Napoli absolutely blitzed Juve 5-1, but then that gave us the chance to sort of cement ourselves as main contenders once again with 3 points to move 3 above Juve and to close the gap back to 7 points to Napoli. After 23 minutes of this game, I was nearly looking for a new television. It was not good. Not good at all. There was the BT blackout thing, which didn't help.
Yeah,
so that means that in the UK, if you're not familiar with this, for some reason, the rules regarding broadcasting are that no live football can be shown until 15 minutes after the 3 o'clock Saturday games have been completed. So that means that they couldn't show it until 5:15 our time. So that's 15 minutes we missed. And of course, the chat fires up 3 minutes into the game saying Teo own goal. Like, brilliant. So not only have we scored an own goal, but we couldn't even see it.
Yeah, I didn't even see it.
I wasn't watching a stream or anything. I just had to go off what people were saying for the match report. So that was grim.
That was all Kalulu too. Yes, it's a Teo own goal, and that's exactly how it should be recorded. But he at least tried to block it. I mean, that's the only reason it touched his body and deflected in. But it came down Kalulu's side. He got beaten just embarrassingly bad for 3-4 goals in a row now. He's just been getting smoked past, and Tata's not entirely blameless in this. Like, yes, it was a deflection, and you can see he was going the other way because that was the way the ball was going to go. He was reading it correctly, and then he kind of looks to jolt the other side and then just kind of stops. Which, it's hard to change direction. But if I'm Tata, this bottle of Prime is the ball. It was right next to him. He could have at least tried to move a little bit. Instead, he just did
so slow. He's so
the same
slow.
thing every time.
That's the thing about having such an immobile goalkeeper, though, is that they're not able to shift their momentum quickly. He was beaten because he committed to the ball going to the one side, as you say, and then the moment that it wasn't straight at him, it was going in. And there you go. He's 36, isn't he? And we know that he's not the most agile, and we know that he ain't going to make those incredible change of momentum. Remember, like Maignan in the derby with that deflected shot where he seemed to go back on himself to reach the hand out. Well, we're not getting that from Tatarusanu. We're just not. Like,
That's
and
what
you're
I'm
not getting
saying.
that from most backup goalkeepers either. But yeah, he does seem
And that's
fragile.
been my issue because everyone's like, you can't blame him for that. Like, he's not going to say that. Like, yeah, no one's saying like you have to save it, but the reality is our starting keeper would. We know that there's proof of it, and that's why it's so frustrating because it's such a huge drop off. Like, I don't know. I just think we need to be playing Davis Vasquez. I know nothing about him. I've never seen him, but he's 24 years old. I guarantee he
worse.
is.
No, he literally cannot be worse.
It's impossible.
It's
he
impossible.
has to have at least better reflexes.
Yeah, he can't be worse.
Like
he may be as bad, but he cannot be worse. I cannot see a world. Can he kick the ball from the goalkeeper's spot? Can he throw the ball? Yes.
That's another thing about Tata that drives me crazy. We're starting a counterattack, and he's just holding onto the ball for 15, 20 seconds. Like, are we going to card this guy? Because he's pissing me off now. And then he takes the simple pass to Kalu or Calabria just for them to pass it straight back because they're under pressure. Yeah. It's like he looks around, sees, okay, got Teo wide open, got Tomori wide open. Here's Benacer triple covered. Let me try to cut that line. And then it goes straight to Benacer, who has to push it straight back. It's like, well, what was the point of this? It didn't move the defense. Like, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, for a throw-in, too.
Not every goalkeeper has the level of distribution that Maignan has. In fact, I would say he's probably top 5 in the world for that particular thing. So maybe we've been spoiled with that. But you've got to at least take the chance in a game like that, you know? Because if you do manage to clear whoever's trying to block the lanes and what have you, then we're away, and our strength is our speed on the counter. So like you're taking away our biggest threat by not releasing the ball quickly, and that is just baffling to me. The second goal is one of the softest I've seen us concede this season. There was not much quality to that cross, and it's just a run from Bashirotto that wasn't tracked. And again, that has been the story of our fecking season when it comes to aerial balls. We've conceded, I think, 9 goals this season from headers, which is the most in the league, and it's the highest percentage of any goal, any one goal that we've conceded. That's a real problem. And now, I guess it's benefit of hindsight because we weren't really saying this last season when we had 9 clean sheets out of 11 to help win the league. But now I think we're starting to see teams exploit more and more the lack of height that Kalulu and Tomori have. Or maybe not necessarily. They're not exactly short. They're not like Lisandro Martinez or whatever, but they're not particularly competent in the air, either of them. And if you load enough balls in, like you're gonna score. Be that set pieces, be that crosses, and that is very frustrating. There were 3 men in and around Bashirotto, but none of them really got a hand on him. None of them impeded the header. It was a good header. I don't hold any blame on Tatarusanu for that one. It was a good header that nestled inside the far corner. But yeah, man, that was grim. And I really thought I put in the chat, I thought we'd draw 2-2, but I actually wasn't that confident in my head. Like, I'm thinking we've totally fucked this. We have totally blown a good chance. And it's, again, I'll give credit to the opponent. Like, Lecce have been pretty good this season. They're now 6 unbeaten. They're mid-table. They've beaten Lazio and Atalanta in their last 2 home games before they played us. They're well coached. Like, Baroni's a good coach. But we should be beating that team. Like, that's the bottom line. And we dug ourselves a hole.
I thought Lecce actually did worse than I anticipated. I put in the chat that this game was going to require 4 goals to win. It only needed 3. But we didn't get it anyway, so...
And then the 4-3, I don't know if I could take it.
God. Yeah, it's... I don't know. Have at it, Lorenzo. I got nothing else.
Yeah, I was going to say... we're going to speak about it in a second because obviously when we went 2 goals down, near the end of the game, obviously we switched it on. But what happened to the team that scored the fastest goal in Serie A history? What happened to the team where as soon as the ball kicks off, we're electric, we're on it, we press? I swear... I don't think we've had one. Correct me if I'm wrong, I can't even remember because this season's been fairly forgettable up until now. I know we're still second, but in terms of performances, what's happened to that team? We take not a little bit of time. We take 15, 20 minutes to switch on most games. Why? We do. You know, whether it be we saw it in the friendlies over the Christmas break, World Cup break. What happened with Kulu and Tomori? Lack of communication. Yes, Tata doesn't help and things like that, but we are really slow to get into every game so far. Why is that? That wasn't like that last season. It wasn't. I don't understand why. Is it the hunger? Is it the fact that we're a scalp now, so every other team wants to get us straight away because we're champions? Why aren't we switching on? Why do we leisurely start every single game? Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I think there's just fear at every level of the lineup. I mean, not to go back to Tata again, but ultimately Mignon begins all of our attacks. He's also a much better shot stopper. And the defense is afraid when they have to go out in front of Tata because they know they're working double. So they're going to make more mistakes. And when they make those mistakes, Tata can't bail them out like Mignon will. So I think there's that. And then you move up and it's like, okay, we don't have Kessie. This game specifically, Tonali's suspended. So we have to start Pobega, who's just not up to par. So now Benacer's triple covered. He's trying to do two people's work because he's all by himself.
Can't be playing with that fear. Like Leche, they could have scored 3 in the first 10 minutes. I remember.
Yeah, they should have been out of sight. They really should.
What?
Yeah.
My brain I couldn't compute it. I was like, what?
Honestly, I agree that the goalkeeper situation doesn't help, but I did a piece. I think I mentioned this last podcast, but it was during the winter break about the fact that in the 16, did we play 16 games before the break or was it 15? Either way, I think we'd fielded 12 different defensive combinations of the back four. 12 different. I know injuries don't help that, but that's a whole other thing. Can we prevent injuries and stuff? There's no cohesion in those back 6-7 players. Mm-hmm. The double pivot haven't been together as much as we'd like. There's been suspensions. There's been a couple of niggles here and there. The back four, Calabria's been out for an extended stretch, and then the centre back pairings have been rotated, and the goalkeeper situation is what it is. But the best teams are probably built from the back. At least that's what our strength was in the run up to winning the league last season, and it just ain't there anymore. Like we're cut through too easily. We used to put a really, really high price on a goal. Like if we conceded a goal, it would have to be something pretty special. And fucking hell, like if we start the game on Wednesday, which we'll come on to against Inter, like we did against Lecce, the trophy will be gone, and we'll have a trophyless season. That's where we're at with it now. And I know AJ said about Coppa Italia, you're not bothered about it and stuff, but I really do think that was one of our 2 shots at a trophy this season. The league's gone for me now. I don't think we have the strength to turn it on straight away and put together the kind of run that's required to put doubt into Napoli and to make them complete. Like, we wanted to see how they responded to their first defeat of the season. They did it with a 5-1 win against the team in second. Like, they've passed that mental test, whereas we're dropping points left, right and centre. The league's gone for me. The Cup, we had a favourable side of the draw compared to previous years. We'd have played Fiorentina in the next round, and then we'd have been in the semis if we'd have got through that. Now we're into the Supercoppa because we're not winning the Champions League. So it's like the season-defining game comes on Wednesday, and we are coming into it in very bad form. So, yeah, I'm depressed.
Well, one thing about the Derby is form is always out the window.
That's true. And they're not exactly pulling up any trees either.
Anthony, I agree. It is a 50-50 game. No matter if you've lost 8 games in a row, it's just nature of it. But 9 clean sheets, 9 games, no clean sheets, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're Inter having... I mean, let's do tops and flops. Let's do tops and flops, and then we'll move on to the Super Cup preview. My top for the game against Lecce was, oh my God, I can't even remember anyone who was any good. Leao scored the goal that got us back into the game, and that kind of gave us a charge, I suppose. Also, Benacer's performance seemed to really divide opinion. Some people said that he was crap, which I didn't see that. I thought he was good, and he should have had the assist for what would have been a winner from Macias. But he hit the post, fine margins and all that.
He was offside too.
Yeah,
he gave it offside, but the replay showed he was on. It would have stood.
Oh, what, really? They would have done a VAR check?
Yeah, it would have stood, which is really, really grim.
That makes it way worse.
He was being played on by the right back. That's fine margins, I suppose. But I thought Benacer was pretty good, kept us ticking. He, as I just said, he was just holding down the midfield on his own. So I'll go with Benacer.
He worked hard,
actually. Yeah, he put in 2-man shift.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still picking Leao. I don't think he had a great 90 minutes. In fact, I think it was, by his standards, pretty pretty average, but the one shot he had was an incredible goal. And it came out of nowhere, out of just nothing, just immediately got it. And what I liked is there was no celebration from anyone. He took that shot and immediately ran back to the halfway line because he knew we got to get another one. Let's go. And I appreciate that. That's the hunger. At the end of the game, you saw him sitting on the ball with tears in his eyes. You saw Tomori with his head in his hands. That to me says the hunger is still there. I just don't know how they're going to go about like waking it up, but maybe that was the catalyst they needed to really change it around, and we're going to see that on Wednesday. I don't know, but I'm going to go with Leal based on those reasons that aren't quite game related.
Yeah, I mean that's a good argument, but I have to go with just from a eye test. It had to be Benacer for me. I think he worked the hardest. Leao was great, but yeah, he wasn't great for 90 minutes. Whereas Benacer wasn't amazing, but yeah, he was doing like you said, Ollie. He was doing two people's jobs, and he worked really hard. So
he did get carded, didn't he?
Yes,
he did. Yeah, he did get carded. Yeah, I'm just watching the replay, and he was off. He was onside. Was Macias?
Huh.
So he should have had an assist for that. Basically,
wasn't Benacer's yellow card bullshit? I think Benacer he was tackled down, and I remember the part of Benacer that challenged the other guy was his head. Benacer got fucking hit in the head, and it brought them both down, and they carded Benacer for that, who was going down from another challenge.
He's got a fair few. How many is he away from suspension now?
He's got to be close. He's got to be close.
He had that problem, didn't he? Like in his first season when he first got into the team, I think he got something like 7 bookings in his first 10 starts. That was in the 2019-20, and then last season he sort of shown that he'd kind of learned from that, but he's back to it now, and I just wonder again how much of that is having to work doubly hard. And
he's tenacious, and it's concentration, isn't it? I suppose, like you're saying, if you're working double shifts, you're doing more tackles, so the probability is increasing, isn't it? But
he's got 4 yellow cards this season, in the league.
I'm just looking at our previous games and like going back to the Monza game on October 22nd. We really haven't had a good game since. We lost to Torino right after. After that was Spezia, which took a 89th minute winner. We were drawn. Then 0-0 to Cremonese, and then Fiorentina, which took a 91st minute own goal to win. And then we were really getting embarrassed against Lumizine or whatever.
Lumezzane.
The Serie C side, the D, whatever they were.
We only beat them 3-2, and we went down in that one 2 goals to 1.
2-0.
Yeah. 1-0 and then 2-1.
Oh,
that's 2-1. What it was.
We went behind twice, yeah.
And then we lost the next 3 friendlies, and then barely skated by Salernitana because they scored a late goal to get back in it, and we had a really cagey end to that game. And then obviously Roma, Torino, and Lecce now. So we've been in descent since October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and tough games coming up as well to try and turn it around. I mean, Lazio away comes after the Super Cup, and then we've got Sassuolo at home, and we know that they can be a problem for us. It's pretty grim. Again. Yeah, I know. But maybe we need sort of games against teams that are going to come at us. I really don't know. We clearly need something. Flop of the match for this game. I'm going to say Kalulu. I mean, it has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
That was bad, but he's got plenty of credit in the bank. He's way ahead of where we thought that he would be probably at this stage. Obviously, everyone knows the story. Arrived without senior appearance, has become a massive point of the project moving forward and stuff. But I guess as Tomori has this season, you're going to have bad games every now and again from young players. Just needs to brush it off, and I hope that he doesn't get dropped for Wednesday's game. I don't think that would do his confidence any good, and I don't think that throwing Kier in there is going to fix all the problems just by a change of personnel. There's something deeper than that.
I don't know. He had that really nice pass at the end of the last game.
I think Kier should actually start on Wednesday.
Me too.
I really do. I think we need a bit of a level-headed calmness.
If it looks like it's going to be Dzeko Lautaro, then I definitely consider it more because I think Kier would be more in the battle with Dzeko.
Yeah.
But
Aston Villa just signed some dude from Chicago for 17 million euros.
What is happening with them?
Prem money, eh?
Prem money.
Randy
It says he
Lerner.
has a market value of $5 million, and they bought him for 17.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, sounds about right.
John Duran, some 19-year-old striker.
Watch him be mint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So everyone in agreement on Kalulu, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's move on then. Supercoppa preview. I'm not going to preface this too much other than saying we beat them earlier this season in the league 3-2 in a thriller. They're not in brilliant form either. The game's been played in Saudi Arabia, so there's a bit of travel consideration to throw in there. I guess both teams are already out there doing training camps and stuff. And I think this is a bit of a coin flip with probably them being slight favourites.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That might be the quickest preview we've ever done.
I mean, we both needed 120 minutes in the cup. They obviously were able to get their job done. We weren't. The difference is, I guess we played the 10th ranked team, which doesn't sound impressive, but they played a Serie B team. So
I think they're in as much of a bad form as us, really.
Yeah.
I think their performances have been maybe slightly better, but they're not in good form. So.
But they embarrassed Napoli. I mean, they made it look.
They were a better team
They
against
need to
Napoli.
do that though, don't they?
Yeah. But
That's
then
what
also like they were far worse and were arguably lucky to beat Verona over the weekend 1-0. And Verona
Absolutely.
crap
That's what-
this season. Like they're dog shit this season.
I didn't watch that game, but I know they scored in the 3rd minute.
Scored early and they kind of rode their luck a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is a huge game because obviously there's a trophy on the line. It's the first time that we'll play into with a trophy on the line since the Supercoppa back in 2011 in Beijing, which is madness and says a lot about the decline of both teams in the years that came after that. But it's a launching pad, isn't it? I mean, I almost think that this is a game where it has a bigger effect on the loser because all of a sudden it goes from being a wobble to like a full-on identity crisis for the loser of this game. Whereas if we emerge as winners somehow, unless we've beaten them 4-0 or something, I don't think it all of a sudden has magically fixed all of our problems either. So it's almost like a must not lose this game rather than the prize for the winner, you know? But I do.
I think winning would have a lot of positive effects. I mean, obviously it would, but just the idea that these guys who are they're missing the hunger, they're just not acting like champions anymore. To lift another trophy, to do it against Inter, they know what the club means, and I think lifting that trophy will remind them of how it feels when they lift the Scudetto. Obviously, they're not going to have the big parade when they get home, but that's going to remind them, like, oh yeah, this feels nice. Like we want this again. Let's see what we could do and push for something. And I don't know, we're not winning the Champions League, but I do think a run is possible. Spurs are abysmal, and the likelihood of us meeting up with Chelsea again in the next round, I think we get the better of them if we were get another shot right now. If they lose, it's Dortmund. A lot of big teams are getting knocked out because they all got matched up. So I don't know. I don't think it's impossible to say we can't make a run there either.
Also,
this could be the catalyst.
There was that stat as well that was doing the rounds about how we're actually only 1 point worse off compared to last season. But and if you compare our results side by side, we've actually done better, and our run of games that's still to come suggests that we should rack up more points. But it's just been 9 behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a golden ticket because I agree with you, Ollie. I don't think us winning this trophy is suddenly going to be like, oh yeah, we're back because this is champions, we're fine. But at the same time, this is a golden ticket. It's a mid-season trophy. That's huge. Like you were saying, Anthony, this is it really will change the mentality, or it will stoke that hunger that should be there, or as we saw with Tomori and Leao is bubbling up at least now. So yeah, we need to win this. So I think this is.
I agree. The good news about a winless streak is it's got to end eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And
why not win?
I mean, look,
game.
here's the glass half full view: is that we haven't pissed away the season yet. We're second in the league.
We are still
it's competitive behind us, so to still be on top of that chasing pile is good. It's not good how far we are behind Napoli, but they're on like record pace this season. So if they go on and get 100 points and win the league, you're like, fair enough. And nobody's going to make fun of you for not winning the league that season. We're still in the Champions League, which was, kind of a minimum objective for this season. We're out of the Italian Cup, but we could still win a trophy on Wednesday. And then that kind of just eases the pressure trophy-wise a little bit. for the rest of the season. So all is not lost, I guess. And I just decided to look at the odds, and Inter are quite big favourites for this game.
Really?
Don't really know why, but
Interesting.
we're
So
shit, that's why.
on FotMob yesterday, and they were giving us as slight favourites
Oh, well.
on Bet365. So maybe it's just changing by the day.
Yeah.
Don't look at the league odds. I'll tell you that.
But I also wanted to raise a point that I put on the chat. I know you guys, we discussed it briefly, but it'd be interesting to see what the listeners at home think. I think it's an interesting point is the media, because I went to see the North London derby last night at my friend's house, and big Arsenal fan, obviously. They're massively in title race. And the narrative behind their position, they're 8 points clear. 8 points clear. 1 point less than Napoli are currently at the moment. But the whole narrative is they could win the league. Mm-hmm. They're the strongest team, but they could win the league. But in Italy, it's Napoli. Don't get me wrong. I think Arsenal and Napoli are probably the two most informed teams in Europe, right? Maybe Napoli even edge it. I don't know. But they're 9 points clear. And this is a team that has bottled before, with a manager that's bottled before. But most outlets are saying, nah, Scudetto's over. It's over. It's Napoli's. Yeah. It's not.
They were talking about it as if like only a Juve win could reopen the race. And we've all watched Juve. They've not been good, even though they've been on a winning run. They haven't been good. So like, I don't really get how the narrative is all of a sudden twisted.
It is like that though, but it's annoying. It's like, I get it. They are an incredible run. And like you were just saying, Ollie, if they get 100 points, then fair play. But more likely than not, they will not keep this pace up for the next, 16, 17 games that are left to play. And if they do,
there's more than that. We're not even halfway yet. There's 20 games left.
That's what I mean. There's less. It's halfway in the Prem. It's not even halfway in the Serie A. And it's like, no, Scudetto's over. There's
got to be a team to take advantage of the slip-ups if Napoli do slip up, and that team is Atalanta.
Oh, please.
8 fucking goals. We turned the TV on and it said 7-2 after 60 minutes, and that can't be right. There must be an error on the.
It's such a weird team.
That was nuts. Anyway, let's move on. Oh no, we'll do predictions. Better do predictions for this game. I think this is going all the way. I think there is actually more on the line for this game than just a trophy, as kind of alluded to, for what it means for the momentum of both teams for the season from this point onwards. And I think for that reason, and whenever I say it's going to be a cagey derby, it's normally the opposite. So you can thank me for this, but I'm going to go 1-1 after 90 minutes, and I think that we are going to lose in extra time again, just because football has these cruel narratives, doesn't it? And I think we lose in extra time. Sorry.
Yeah,
they've got better depth.
I'd be shocked if we make it to extra time, but we're losing.
Okay, I'll be the only hopeful one then. I think we win inside 90 minutes, 2-1. Yeah.
I don't
know the score. But...
Notice nobody said a clean sheet.
No way.
No, but that would just be fucking us all over, wouldn't it? Like a 3-0 win out.
Dzeko is scoring in this game. I can guarantee that.
I've already got. That's already going on.
I might even put a bet on. It's that likely to happen.
There's certain certainties in the Milan derby at the moment. Dzeko scored obviously in the game this season. Teo and Dumfries both to be booked. I think that's
Dumfries isn't playing. He's out.
Is he?
Yeah. Dumfries.
He's not suspended.
No,
so is he injured? Brozovic is apparently going to be fit enough for the bench. Çalhanoğlu and Barella are fine. Lukaku's probably going to be bench. I hadn't read about Dumfries, but Gazzetta can get stuff wrong. But they did a big thing today about Teo v Dumfries, so it'd be quite funny if they've done that and he just doesn't play.
So I've got Brozovic, Lukaku, Handanovic. Obviously, Handanovic won't play, but Lukaku, Brozovic not playing.
Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I just hope it's an entertaining spectacle. I don't like that this game's been played in Saudi Arabia, but that's just like maybe a traditionalist viewpoint. It's the last Supercoppa in the contract that's going to be played in Saudi Arabia. So then I hope it shifts back to, because this game should be at San Siro, man, or even at the Olimpico. Like it should be for the fans who are there week in, week out. Like they deserve to see their team win a domestic trophy in their own country. Like that's not too much to ask, is it?
I don't know how playing. I know it's an air-conditioned stadium or not, but this is maybe me putting my biological health head on. But I don't like the idea of the players getting on a private jet, traveling all that way, going from pretty cold conditions right now in January in Europe, and then it's gonna be 25, 30 degrees, and then coming back again.
It's gonna be actually.
I don't like that. I don't know. Maybe that's a nothing statement, but I don't like that. It's not going to do any good, is it? You know,
it's going to be at
Hot weather
17
training.
degrees maximum on Wednesday, so that's okay.
That's not too
Maybe
bad.
it just needs. Maybe both teams are just heat activated, and they need,
Yeah.
a bit of warm weather to get. Didn't help me in Dubai, did it? But fuck yeah, I don't know.
It's 7.5 million euros at stake. I mean, that's not a whole lot compared to other Super Cups, but
it's a lot for Milan. Massive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
Also, we get 7 million even if we lose. There's only 500k difference for the winner versus the
Really?
loser.
Okay,
Yeah, so
well,
we're getting our money.
Cool.
That's good. Serie A, the cheeky bastards, are taking 10% of it.
Really?
What for? They're not hosting the game. They're not organising anything. It's just like
Probably
we
stamp.
give us
Literally,
10%.
some Italian guy stamping it, going, "Yeah, it's approved." That's it.
That is Italian football all over. Right, we'll do some questions. Thank you to everyone who sent questions in. I'm just going to pick like 3 or 4, just because looking at the time. Bart Jallo asks, looking back at the summer mercato and how successful that was, who would you put the blame on, Maldini or the owners? Is it binary? I think it's probably both. Like the takeover situation came at the worst possible time. We needed continuity. We needed funding to be available up front. But then also there was the whole Maldini and Massara renewal saga that dragged on. And it shouldn't have done because I think they were always going to sign regardless. And, they pushed it. And that made things a little bit difficult. But we still made an investment in the summer window. Like the other Italian teams couldn't afford to do without selling. Like we went out there and we got the guy that we'd negotiated for weeks, and it just hasn't worked out yet. Would we be looking at the market differently if CDK had 3 goals and 3 assists this season? I don't know, maybe, but I do think we have got an objectively weaker squad now.
Yeah, I don't think you could pick just one person for blame. It's a combination of everything. The renewal saga for Maldini that dragged on until the window was halfway over is ridiculous. It should never be like that. Especially as a sporting director, you should try to wrap that up as quickly as possible. And we know he did his vacation in Ibiza instead, so that's frustrating. You could pin a lot of blame on him for that one because no deals were going to get done when he didn't know if he had a job. Let's be real; it's not going to happen. The takeover not getting finished until, was it August 20th, something like that, late August?
It was last day of August.
Yeah, so that's the whole window right there. Like you can't make anything. Elliot's not going to invest when they're in the midst of a takeover, So you could get mad at Elliot as well for saying, yeah, we'll sell the club over the summer instead of when we reached the agreement of principle in like April. You could just close that shit before the end of the season, but they wanted it all them for the Scudetto, so...
I was going to say, is there part of you that's suspicious about how the deal actually worked? Because the takeover was officially all agreed and the statements came out in June, but the closing date was always going to be September the 1st, like early September. Yep. I mean, that is the entire summer window.
Exactly.
Is there an element of suspicion there?
Yes.
And I must say, Rohit was the one who brought that up to me. I hadn't realised how coincidental, shall we say, the timings were on that. But then at the same time, we did still invest more than most other teams in terms of net amount. So, again, can you say that we just got the signings wrong? I don't know.
Well,
I really do think that
our
plan A was to get Sven Botman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know how you centre your entire plan for the summer around going and getting a good aerially dominant centre-half and a good dynamic ball-playing midfielder like Renato Sanchez, and then we completely switched that investment to be on a new number 10 and then a load of players around on loan with option to buy. It's like, what?
Yeah, especially when
you either have a need for the team or...
In the last three seasons, we've said we need a right wing, we need a striker, we need a center mid, and we didn't address any of that. It wasn't even our first priority. Like you said, that was a center back, and then it became an attacking mid, and then it was whatever scraps we could find, leaving Enzo Fernandez on the table at 10 million to hold out for injury-prone Renato Sanchez, knowing our injury problem, and then seeing what happened this year. He wouldn't have. I guarantee if Renato signed with us, no appearance. He would not have played. Given the way our injury record's been this season. It's crazy. Go for Origi instead of Koulibaly, who we apparently were offered as well. Like, I don't know.
And we still want him, but this time we're going to pay 35 million this summer. That is fucking us all over, isn't it? Julian Alvarez was another one who we could have got relatively cheap. and I think he would have.
It shows our scouting network's great.
That's what I was literally about to say. I think if I was Moncada, I'd be really frustrated. I think we have. I honestly think he's one of the best scouts in European football. We clearly identify some of the best talent around Europe. Clearly, we're linked with some of them. You know, we do it on SempreMilan. You can see the coverage; it's there. Whether it's a Massara, Maldini, Redbird, Elliott combo, we don't know what kind of combination it is. It falls through, but I think if I was him, I'd be sitting there going, these are gems. These are gems. Take one or two of them. And we don't. We don't. We just don't, for whatever reason. So that's a problem.
I'm going to throw in this alternative view from at the AM view. Given that Milan's transfer policy is based on youth, is it too early to judge the summer window as a failure? When we signed our current core back in 2019, how many of those players became instant hits?
Yeah, but we're champions now, so
I think we should just be signing more ready-made players.
The goalposts have moved. Yeah. It doesn't matter that we're ahead of schedule. We've won a trophy now. We've got to try and move the goalposts. That's
while everyone else is still. That's the thing, is we missed a chance to potentially up with our financial. They keep banging on about how financially we're on the right course. Our revenues are going up. We're cutting our losses. We can invest in players again without having to sell. You've got a Juve side who are still, they're probably going to finish top 4 this season, but they've been pretty crap the last few years. Inter still kind of figuring themselves out a little bit after losing the Scudetto last season. Napoli always capable of a collapse. The Roman clubs are probably going to be in and around the 6 and 7 spots. Atalanta are what they are. Like, we had a chance to really open up a chasm with the rest of the league, and it just feels like instead of that, we've taken a step back to be back amongst them all.
Yeah, and what bothers me is, like, yes, Enzo Fernandez was cheap, Julian Alvarez was cheap, Ziyech was a cheap one that was mentioned. Like, we had these options, but on top of those options, Di Maria was a free, and he's done great at Juve. Dybala was great.
For fuck's sake! Like, he was a free transfer. We could have got them both. If we're going to
that's the 2 spots we needed
to sign Leao. Why was that foresight not there for a player who really would have made the difference for us? And
he's been so good. He's been so good for such a defensive Mourinho team. Yet he's got 10 goal contributions. He's a quality player. He knows the league.
Instead, we were apparently negotiating over Zaniolo during the summer. It's like, what were we doing?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't fit us at all.
We were trying to free up funds for Roma to sign Dybala.
I don't even know. Max Lombardi asks, what do you think we owe to our dip in form? Lack of quality, lack of strength in depth, Pioli's tactics. Let's try isolate one thing just to make it fun. Even though it's definitely an amalgamation, what's the biggest thing? Lack of depth for me, I think.
Yep, it's got to be depth. That's got to be the main one.
The answer is all of it.
But yeah, I think I have, for the first time ever. I don't think we should. I'm not saying I sat here and Pioli out. I'm not saying, but for the first time, I am starting to see limitations in Pioli's tactics and use of players. Now, don't get me wrong. If we had better depth available, then it would make his job easier, of course. But I think he could have done a bit better. I'm not saying play Adley and Bronx either. I'm not saying that. There are certain substitutions, certain ways he's dealt with things that I think he could have done a little bit better, especially now that he should be more experienced. He's a trophy-winning coach. He should have learned these things, and he hasn't really.
I agree with everything you're saying. And just to take it one step further, what is the main criticism of coaches like Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp? All that, it's, of course they could win. They get unlimited money. Any manager could win when they could sign anyone. So by that bar, the sign of a good manager is one who could win without the money, without the players. And Pioli's not doing that.
No. He did, though. And again, he's another person. He's another figure who has a lot of credit in the bank, without a doubt. And you could even argue, depending on how this season goes, we've taken a step forward in that we're now in the best 16 teams in Europe. Like, we got through our Champions League group and we're into the knockout stages. But, yeah, there does seem to be some regression.
Incredible, wonderful things. But years ago, when he signed, and even last season on this pod, people asked us, like, what is Pioli's limit? Is he the guy to win it? And we all agreed. He might be the guy to win us a Scudetto, but he's not the guy to win us the Champions League. He's not going to take us to that next level. And we all knew that. And that was when I started getting critical of him, was when we renewed him recently. Because when we did that, it was before we still not in first place. We've actually dropped further away from first place since then. we weren't out of the group stage in the UCL. We hadn't played any cup matches, and I was like, we haven't even gotten close to achieving any of our objectives yet. We're renewing them for it, and fast forward, we're out of the cup after one game. We're 9 points at the top. We didn't make it to the knockout round, so he achieved one of 3 objectives, but I don't know. It doesn't.
I'm going to
look
be
as
honest,
good for him.
as well. I know you said we'll give Spurs a game, and we could maybe be favourites for that. I think we lose to Spurs. I think we lose to any English team that's left in the competition at the moment. The thing, the gap's too big.
I can't deal with
They're just like, how many times do we have to play Premier League teams and get smoked by them to realise that there's just a big gap? Brentford would give us a game at the moment.
Oh my
Absolutely,
God,
no
yes.
doubt about it.
Right,
and yet we're talking about we'll beat
Spurs.
Spurs. No, we fucking won't. We'll lose to them, and I don't think we'll score.
But I don't
unless
think that's
something
player,
changes.
But Ollie, I don't think that's player related. I think that's a tactical. I think that's on Pioli. I don't think us losing to a British team is because our players aren't good enough. I really don't. I think it's a tactical redundancy that we have for whatever reason.
We definitely don't have the same depth as Premier League teams because we don't have the same money available to build a squad
Spurs
that's genuinely 30 players. They've got a better squad. They've got a better squad than we do.
You think Doherty is a better right back than Calabria? I don't think so.
No, but Calabria's our starter.
Pepe Sarr had his first start at Spurs. He's not better than any of our midfielders.
But we wanted him, and he went to Spurs instead.
But what I'm saying, Spurs are a really good example where you think that their summer, for example, is good. You look back at it, I don't think it's that great. I think tactically, Conte's obviously going to out tactic Pioli when it comes to the Champions League games. I don't think player for player, except for Son and Kane, that maybe even good.
Even Son's not been great this season, to be honest.
No, he's still world class though. But
Højbjerg and Bentancur against Benacer and Tonali will be really good.
That'd be good. That's pretty even. That's a pretty even.
That is very similar. I don't know. The answer to the question is that it's a combination of all of them.
Yeah. We went off,
and I'll ask this as a final one, and I don't want to say that it's going to happen or anything like that, but we got 3 different versions of this question, so I've got to ask it. Daniel Ahmed, Gregory Peck, they asked if Pioli gets sacked, who's the right man to take us forward? Now, I don't think he's going to get sacked anytime soon. I still think he's got plenty behind him.
We're too loyal. Yeah. We're annoyingly loyal. We're actually annoyingly loyal to players and staff. It's frustrating.
But there does seem to be a lot of managerial movement going on. So
the problem is there's a bunch of great managers that are unemployed right now, and we will go for none of them.
Yeah.
So who's going to replace him? It'll be some guy I've never heard of.
Is that who you instantly think of? Because we're not attracting Zidane.
No.
Pochettino would be a fascinating.
I like his football.
Pochettino, Tuchel. There's other ones out there. Why can't I can't think of the names, but there's a couple other ones available right now.
Yeah, we'll get a Serie B coach who's
exactly.
I
wouldn't mind going for De Zerbi, but why would he come back to Serie A when he's
and he'll be on more money? He'll be on more money in Brighton as well.
Yeah, he will.
De
Zerbi got a mention actually, and I looked at how he's done since he started at Brighton. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And you could say just totally outcoached Klopp at the weekend as well. And Klopp is the guy that a lot of our fans are saying, go and get him when it goes sour at Liverpool. Maybe the guy was in Serie A all along and we let him go to Shakhtar Donetsk. Anyway, Pioli's done great for us. I don't think he's instantly at risk. If we finish the season trophyless and we've dropped out of the top 4, I think discussions will be had. I think that's only right. There's got to be reflections after a season where you go from winning a trophy to not winning anything and not achieving your minimum objective.
I agree, but I don't. If that happened, Ollie, sorry to interrupt. If that happened, I do not think Pioli would get sacked, even if that happened, unless we finish 10th. If we finish 5th and we don't get any trophies and we're maybe a couple points off top 4, I'd still think Pioli will be in a job.
He shouldn't be. But I have to be honest. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That's just the inclination I get from the club. We're too loyal.
I think we've always sort of said this on the podcast, and I think the majority of sensible Milan fans have always said that when Pioli was appointed, obviously there was the protests and everything, and I don't agree with that. I don't think you should write off a manager before they've even managed a game. But he was always expected to be the interim guy. Even when he was appointed, we were lining up Ranić for the end of the season. And we can all say, benefit of hindsight, glad we didn't do that. Glad we stuck with the stability. It's what led us to a league title. There will come another obvious point where we need to roll the dice and we need to say, we want to take a jump to now be back among Europe's elite, because Pioli either has shown good stuff and, you know, he's a lovely bloke and he always says the right things in the media, and I think he's learned and adapted a lot as a coach, but might not be ruthless enough. Or the flip side to that is that actually he's grown a lot and he is the guy to take us there, and then everyone's happy. But yeah, I think there will come a time where we need to make a decision.
This is why I've been so critical of the renewal, because if we don't get top four, if we don't win any trophies, we know how stingy this club is. We're not sacking anyone, no matter how much they deserve it, because we just renewed him for 4 more years. Or however many years.
Was it a 4-year contract?
I don't know. That was just
it was 2024 with an option for another year.
Okay.
They should have just renewed it till. Oh no, maybe it was 2025 with an option.
I think it was 25.
Yeah. They should have just renewed him to the end of next season.
You should have just let the contract run and at the end of it renew.
No, but then you get into Maldini and Massara areas again, where it's like you let an expiring contract run down to the final few days. I don't think you can do that.
But as a manager, that's okay. People aren't buying managers.
You can't do that as a head coach. I don't think. I think he deserves better than that.
How much is Pioli on? Just very quickly before
he's not on.
He's still not one of the best paid coaches in the league. He got a pay rise.
He must be on a few million, right? But not.
I thought it was like 1.5.
Gets 3.5 mil net.
3.5.
So he got a 500k pay rise with his renewal back in October. I mean that is it's nowhere near the top in the league.
That's what I'm saying. You could have just given him a little upfront bonus if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. Give him $1 million and then say we won't. You know what I mean? That's what, another 500k, but then you're not tied in for 2 more years. So
exactly.
Yeah,
because we can't do it. We cannot sack someone mid-season and pay off 2 managers. It's not going to happen. We're not Chelsea.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it could have been Spalletti who was with us instead of Pioli, but we wouldn't pay the severance.
I remember that.
That was a very strange couple of days. Was that?
And I don't think Spalletti's a winner, even if he gets the Scudetto this season. He's proven he's just as much of a serial loser as
he's just a hothead. He's so
others.
Unstable, like Conte. Like he might actually win something, but it doesn't mean he's a project manager. Like he's a 2-year manager, probably.
Yeah.
Very quick news roundup. I don't think there's too much to add on. Go on.
We should ask that last question.
What was the last question?
From
sorry, of course. Yeah. My bad. All Ball has been asking on YouTube, and I'm sorry that we haven't got to answering this for weeks, quite literally weeks,
quite months.
We did mention it before, but it could even be a couple of years ago that we spoke about this. But he wanted to know our story of how we became Milan fans. And Lorenzo, you can open up because yours is probably the most straightforward.
Yeah, mine's probably the most traditional. So my family are all Italian. I was brought up with watching calcio and Italian football with all my family, a lot of my cousins, and it's split. My family's split down the middle between Juve fans and Milan fans. And when I was younger, I like the color red. I'm talking because literally I've been, I was a kid, right? So I think that's literally what sways your decisions, especially because my direct parents, they like football, but they're not club fans. They support Italy and all that in the World Cup, but it's more of my grandparents.
Italy in the World Cup. It's been quiet.
I was going to say probably not in the World Cup.
Sorry, I had to get that in.
It's fine. So yeah, and then I'm very close to one of my Zio Mariano, and he's a Milan fan, and basically just through family connection, and then so more traditional family ties. But been supporting them since I was a little boy. So
good story.
Nice. Yeah. Well, mine, I'm bald now, as Madison loves to point out, but back in my high school days, I had a ponytail. I used to have a lot of hair, and I was going shopping at the mall with my buddy Dan, who's a big Spurs supporter. And I was having a bad hair day, but I was wearing a black t-shirt and some bright red Ferrari Puma racing shoes. And I needed a hat. So I went in the hat store, and they randomly had a shipment of European soccer teams. They never got those, but I saw one that matched my outfit. It was obviously Milan. And so I asked my buddy Dan, I was like, yo, is this team any good? And at the time, it was 2011 when we won our last Scudettos, or the one prior. So he's like, yeah, they just won the league. And I was like, all right, bet. So I bought that hat and haven't missed a game since. Ironically, I will miss the Sassuolo game on the 29th, though. So First one I'll miss in a decade.
Probably for the best. Like, it's a Sunday lunchtime, so we're definitely dropping points. I'm interested in the red Ferrari Pumas.
You still have
them?
No.
I was gonna say, man, I've seen a few of those knocking about, and they are bold attire.
Oh, they're atrocious.
There's a word that I think of when I see them, and it starts with an N.
Yeah. We might get demonetized if we say it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say anymore. But...
Yeah. My story is essentially kind of split in half from when I was growing up and going through primary school. Quite a lot of my friends were the annoying, glory-supporting Liverpool fans. We were all mad into football, obviously. Huddersfield are my first team. But then when Liverpool played Milan in the 2 Champions League finals, 05 and 07, I just rooted for Milan to wind them up. And then they signed quite a lot of my favourite players, like Ronaldinho and Beckham, towards the back end of the 2000s. Ibra obviously went there. I really liked Boateng as well. But there was a period in the early 2010s where I was just following Huddersfield home and away. They were like sort of really the only team that I proper devoted time and money to. And then in 2014, I went to my first ever game at San Siro. It was a Milan derby. It was Inter's home game technically, but I went with my Milan shirt and I was in the Inter end, well, sort of like the mixed section as it was. And I was surrounded by Milan fans. And it was just a really, really incredible experience. We lost 1-0. Freddie Guarin scored the winner. So I was a bit gutted about that. But I just remember thinking, this is so much better than what I have to watch week in, week out with Huddersfield. So went to San Siro several times after that. Also met a Huddersfield supporting Milan fan and I've been to games with him and stuff. And it just grew from there into watching on TV to being like, oh, I can actually go and experience this. And then the website helped everything and met so many amazing people through the Milan community, so to speak. And that's it. Got a half black heart now, I suppose, as they would say. But yeah, glad we could finally answer that one. Let us know your stories as well in the comments. Always fascinating to hear how people, especially overseas, become fans of the club. And thank you very much for listening if you made it this far. Really hope that we can recap a big win next week. That would be nice. Yeah, please. Like, comment, subscribe, and give us a rating on your favourite podcast platform. That would really help us out. But I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep, Torgid45, and we had Lorenzo as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Double whammy for me. Very quickly, TikTok is please check that out. I haven't told these guys. I'll tell them afterwards, but I'm hoping to do a bit of collab as well to increase some engagement. So watch the space. Some good people in the Milan and Italian football space.
Yep. Antonio Cassano is coming on. To the
and we're gonna grill him for 20 minutes because he only chats shit. So great.
Definitely go and check that out. We're at SempreMilan.com on TikTok. And yes, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in a week's time.
Eccolo Ante in area di rigore, Ante, Ibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono.